Just checking to see if we're live. I need to make sure. Hmm. Wonder if I'm live. Let's just see here. Hmm. Well, it looks like I am live. All right. Seems like it. I hope so. This is the first live, so I presume that we're on. Let me just check. All right. Seems like it. I hope so. Okay. We're live. I'm just going to wait. Oh, here we go. We're actually 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Right on the money. Oh, I'm so glad that I got this up and going. So let's just switch to that. And welcome. Welcome to the very first live of Finish First Financially. I'm Goran Radanovic. Welcome. What is going on? Why is there a warning? What's the warning? Hmm? Sorry, I just have to see what's going on here. Strange. I wonder, am I live now? What is going on? Just have to make sure. Looks like it. All right. Well, I'll just carry on. Hopefully everything is all right. There's some warning signs, although I'm not sure what that's about. But let me start with this first live by kind of explaining what the channel is all about. I think that's very important. I obviously, there's nobody really watching at the moment, but that should hopefully change in the near future. And I'm just going to keep going until somebody eventually does start watching. But to start off with this first live, what was important for me to do when I started this project, Finish First Financially, was to have a channel that's dedicated to helping people get out of debt and to build savings, especially millennials and Gen Z. Those are my target audience, but obviously anybody else is welcome because people of all ages need to learn personal finance. And that's one of the things. Speaking of that topic of personal finance not being taught, we don't learn that stuff at school. It's for most of us, it's not. I think it's kind of creeping into some schools around the world at the moment. But generally, my generation, generations before that, never really had any financial education, personal finance, especially. That's what I'm referring to. That's what the channel is about. And, most of our parents didn't teach that to us because their parents didn't teach it to them. And so we kind of had to figure it out along the way through trial and error. That's how I learned. I'm going to tell you a bit about my story, give you some background of how I got to this position. But while I'm still on the channel, when I wanted to kind of get into these consultations, that's what I call them, to help people pay off their debts, to eventually start building up their savings after paying off their debt, and kind of eventually get into investments. So that's the goal. That's the route that I took, and I made plenty of mistakes along the way, which I will share. I mean, I'll pretty much share everything, since uh, I'm open about it, because I wrote a book, and I'll even mention what that's about and so forth. But right now, with the channel, my goal was to do consultations, to sit down with one person and to kind of look at their finances, to see where they're going wrong, where they can reduce the expenses, how they can increase their income, preferably have multiple streams of income so that they could pay off their debts as soon as possible, so that they can eventually be on the road to saving. And what I found was that I think I did about 2 consultations, which was great. I definitely learned something from them. I'm talking now public ones, because there's private and then there's public ones. So with the private ones, obviously that's never shared, but with the public ones, that's on YouTube, on everything. I post those onto the channel. And I did 2. I posted one of them, which was great. But what I found was that the recruiting process to find these people who want to come onto the channel and share their finances to the world. I mean, you can imagine that's a very personal thing to do, and a lot of people have anxiety about it. I just wasn't able to really lock down people, to get them to commit to this. And the thing is, it was a paid gig, so I was paying for people to come on, and then still giving them what I believe was valuable advice. So that's like kind of 2 payments. I'm adding value to your life in 2 different ways, and yet people are still apprehensive about doing it. I suppose because the channel is new, they don't really know what it's about, they don't know me, and I can understand that. And it's also nerve-wracking to kind of go under the spotlight, to have your finances scrutinized, and to be for them to be broadcast to the world. That I can definitely understand. So I'm just checking. Okay, the mic is on, thank God. So I found that, people were initially kind of amped, and then I also had a waiver that they had to sign for admin purposes, and some of them even signed. And then when it came time to recording the consultations, they just backed out of it. And I went through this process several times, and I just wasn't able to get people to come onto the show. So I kind of got tired of that. It was a futile process, which actually cost me to advertise, and also investment of my time and so forth. It wasn't going anywhere. And I wanted to do something different. There's a few channels here on YouTube which are kind of doing these consultations, and they're having great success, and well done to them. That's great. I actually envy them for being able to find these people to do the consultations with, and these people actually show up to their homes, which, I mean, I was struggling to get people to come on via virtual meeting, and these people are going to their homes. So well done to them. That's a great achievement to do that. But I also wanted, to do it virtually. I wanted people from all over the United States and Canada. So I'm targeting the North American market, to kind of come on to the show and to ask questions about issues that you're having with. And I just felt that virtual meetings were the best. So you could call from anywhere within North America, and you can come onto the channel, and I could sit down with you, and we could discuss your finances, discuss the specific issue that you've got. And one of the great things, I thought, how do I do this and still have several people and kind of reach up and have this reach and make it entertaining? And I thought, well, why don't I go live? So here I am. That was my kind of little epiphany that I had, my little light bulb that went on. And I just thought, let me go live. Let me see how it's going to work out. You know, obviously, this is the first one, so I'm not expecting much from it. And eventually, what I'll do, I didn't do it for this one because I'm kind of explaining the channel and my background and so forth. But what I will do is include a link. We'll do like a link to Zoom. We'll do Zoom calls. So if you want to come onto the channel, you just call in via Zoom or maybe some other service that I'll use. I'm not sure which one exactly yet, but I'll figure it out. And then you call in, and then I put you on. You know, obviously, you waive all rights to privacy when you come on. Also, this is purely for entertainment purposes. It's not financial or investment advice. So just keep that in mind. And, you know, we talk about your issues. Obviously, you have to be prepared to share it with people online. I mean, this is being broadcast live. So that's what I plan to do with the channel. Obviously, as it grows, I'll be going live 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I think I'll probably be doing it every single day, Monday to Friday. I think that's my goal, to do it every day. Hopefully, that we can get to calls as soon as possible, so that you have the optimal entertainment experiences. I think it's going to be fun, you know, so that you could see. One of the biggest reasons that I want people to call in is so that you could see that you're not the only one who's going through this specific situation that you're going through. We feel kind of easy about our situation when we know others are in it as well. You're not the only one. There's other people who are experiencing it as well. And then also from the kind of the calls that I'm going to have with these people, you're going to see what I did and then maybe incorporate it into your life if you feel that information, my experience pertains to your life, and see how it works out for you. You might have success with it as I did. So I think that's one of the valuable things that are going to come from these calls. You know, you're going to see other people in the same situation as you. You're going to hear my story and what I went through, and I'm going to give you a bit of my story now as well. And I think you'll find that I'm probably was in a worse spot than you are currently, or could possibly be in what I went through. So that's what I'm going to do with this channel. I think I haven't seen any other channel do this, go live and answer personal finance questions. Maybe there are, but I don't know, Vinny. It doesn't matter. I'm doing my own thing. And I hope that it goes somewhere. I really do. Because I feel that, you know, everything that I went through, I've got some knowledge. I've got some certain experiences that I believe will help people. Sorry, let me just see what this is warning me of, this YouTube. I'm just curious if I'm still live. Oh man. Oh jeez. Hopefully the sound was on. Oh my goodness. I don't know. I just realized now that the sound on my computer was off. Oh, what is this warning? It's recommended. Stream sky is lower than the recommended. We recommend you using a battery. Oh man. I don't know. Hopefully this works out. Sure. I think the sound should be on. I'm really hoping the sound is on. Let me just see. It should be on. I'm fairly certain that it's on. Oh, yes. Otherwise, everything that I've just said now for the past 15 minutes hasn't been heard by anyone, which will really be unfortunate. Okay. We'll just see how that works out. Might have to do this stream all over again. Hopefully that's not the case. Because, oh, jeez. Well, it is the first one, so if I mess up, I mess up. What can I do? At least I tried. That's important. So, why am I qualified to, well, why do I fit this channel, and what valuable advice can I share with you? Why is it that you may want to listen to me? Well, what I can tell you is that I decided to study finance. So I got a finance degree, and then I decided to get another finance degree. So I thought, once I got the first degree, I thought it wasn't enough. Let me get another finance degree. So I got an honors in finance, which is like the fourth year, just a level before masters. That's how it is in South Africa. So I did my bachelor's of commerce, got the 3-year degree, then I got an honors degree in finance. So now I've got these 2 finance degrees. I think that I know something about finance. And I go into the finance world. I worked there for 6 years. And then eventually I just got tired of it. I wanted to open up my own business. And I decided to quit. Now, at the time, I was making a decent living. I was living in a posh area, driving a luxury BMW, had a good salary. There wasn't really a need for me to make a change. But I was just tired of working for somebody, and I wanted to do my own thing. Wanted to make. I wanted to be the decision maker, whereas I wasn't in all the companies that I worked for. It was always the CEO who made the decisions, and I just got very frustrated with the way that they were abusing money. That's how I felt. They were really abusing money, and I just didn't want to be in an environment like that where I was so frustrated with what they were doing and I had no control over it. So I quit my corporate job and I became a barman. My goal was to learn the hospitality industry because I wanted to open up my own restaurant or nightclub. So I started from the bottom. And I made more in the corporate world in an hour than what I did as a barman. And it was working the entire night as a barman made me less than what just an hour's work in the finance world. And it was much tougher work at being a barman. You have to deal with clients or customers and just working throughout the whole night, working weekends. Then you have to count stock in the morning. It was just a pain. But I kind of dealt with it. I tolerated it because I saw this as long term. This was my plan to work my way up, to study this industry, to know it, and then open up my own place. And that's what I eventually did. But a year and a half after quitting my corporate job, from barman, I went and became a manager. I ran one of the biggest clubs, not only in South Africa, but in Africa. It was a very popular club internationally, actually, that I worked for. And after doing that for some time, well, I think I'd worked there for about a year or so. That's that night specific nightclub. I quit and I opened up my own nightclub. And I go into all the details of what happened in my book, which is a personal finance book, and that's how this whole thing came about. The book is called From Homeless to Debtless with Savings. It documents my whole entire process, how I started in finance and how I failed and how I got to a point, what exactly happened with the nightclub. To give you a short, just a rundown of it, I got into this venture with partners the second time around because the first time around I failed. And second time around, I got fired from this business that I started. So now, not having any savings, having lots of debt, having no income, I wasn't even able to pay my rent after I got fired from the club that I started. I had to leave my place. I wasn't able to pay the rent. I got evicted. And having nowhere to go, I put all of my stuff that I had. I sold some my big appliances and furniture and so forth. And the stuff that I had left, I put into my boot and into the back seat. And I got into my car and I drove a couple of blocks from my place because I didn't want to be near where I was previously staying. And I parked my car on the side of the road and I lived in it. So there I was, 32 years old. I've obtained 2 finance degrees. I just recently opened up a business. I was a business owner, worked in finance for 6 years, and there I was, homeless. It was a surreal experience to say the least. I think the best way I could describe it, because it was so unbelievable, is that it was like watching a movie from the point of view of the main actor. And it's like you're seeing things from his eyes. You've got that perspective, but you're kind of living vicariously through that actor. But it's just difficult to comprehend that that's actually you. That's your life. That's how I felt. It's just a truly unbelievable. It just feels surreal in a bad way. You can't believe you're in that situation. I couldn't believe it. So there I am. I've got a mountain of debt, no income, no savings, no place to stay, living in my car. Once I sold my appliances, I think I had at the time equivalent to about, let's say, $100, right? It was something like that because it wasn't much. I actually needed to fix the car, so I kind of gave the mechanic my furniture as payment. Didn't even have money, so he took the furniture, and then I had about, let's say, $100. I think it was something like that. It wasn't more than that, which I needed to use for food. So the money had to stretch because I didn't know when my income was when I was going to start making any money, when I was going to find a job. And at that one, immediately after I got fired, I put my shares on the market in the club that I had. I wanted to sell them so I could have money, and I also wanted out of the business. And there I am with this limited funds. I need to eat, and I don't have much money. I don't know how. I can't spend it on anything else but food. So all I bought was 2 paninis, which are like one of those big rolls, they're square. They call them paninis. So I just bought 2 paninis for the day, and that was all I ate. They were plain, dry. There was no spread on them, just as they were, and I ate that twice, just once a day, 2 paninis. That was my only nutrition that I had. So you can imagine I lost weight. I was obviously stressed. The worst part was I didn't know when I was going to make money. I was hoping that my partners or somebody else would buy my shares so that I'd have some money, but that never came to fruition, unfortunately. And so there I am living in my car. The worst part was that it was autumn. We were heading into autumn and it was cold. I couldn't even lie in the back seat because my stuff was there. Had some clothing. Well, I can't even remember. Maybe some gadget or whatever it was in the back. So I couldn't even relax in the back. I was in the driver's seat. Can't remember. I'm sure I had a blanket, but it's yeah, because you're like it's out. I'm parked on the road. It's not exactly warm. And I remember I looked up. I was close to a building. I mean, right next to a building. I wanted to be in a safe spot because I was also worried about somebody breaking into my car. So I tried to find the safest spot that I could, and I parked next to a building. And I remember one night looking up at the building, a light came on in the kitchen. I could see like on the corner was like a fridge. And I thought, oh man, that person is just so fortunate. They're in a warm environment. They're going to get food to eat. They're probably going to sit on a couch while eating and watching TV. I mean, they're just like the luckiest person in the world. And that's one of the things that I realized, in that moment, you only realize what you've got when you've lost it. It's uh, just to have a warm bed, food, and a roof over your head. You're blessed. You were definitely way ahead of me at that time, and I just thought stuff like that we take for granted and we shouldn't. And I learned never to take it for granted since from that day. And I remember making a promise to myself, because you can imagine I was so frustrated at the time. I was angry with myself mostly. I said to myself, once I come into some sort of money, I'm going to never let it go. I'm going to manage it well. I'm not going to spend it. I'm going to invest it wisely. First thing I'm going to do is get out of debt, clear up this mess. And that was the commitment that I made to myself in that specific moment. Also, to never take anything for granted ever again, especially food, bread, roof over my head, and to cherish that, to really be grateful for it. So I looked at that window and I was just so envious of that person. And I thought, man, I have to make a change, but I don't know how to. How am I supposed to? I'm in a really tough spot, and a couple days later, I got in touch with a friend whom I worked with at a restaurant when I first started in the hospitality industry. I think I was talking to him about selling my iPad because I needed more money to survive, just to have money for food. I was asking him for some advice. And can't even remember the whole story, how it came about, where I asked him to stay for the night. If I could spend a night at his place. That's where the conversation eventually led to, and I stayed at his place. And then in the morning, he asked me, where am I going? What's my plan? And that's when the truth came out. I told him about what, and by the way, nobody knew about this. Not my family, not my friends. I mean, I wasn't, because I was busy with the club so much, I invested everything into it, all my money, all my time. I wasn't even really keeping in touch with anybody. That business was my life. So nobody knew that I was homeless, not my family, not my friends. And I was embarrassed. I mean, didn't really want to let anybody even know about it. I had a chat with this friend, and he found out and he said, look, I can offer you a place until you find something. And I thought, well, I was embarrassed. I just, what was ironic was that just before I opened up the club, I actually offered him a managerial position. I liked him. He was a very nice guy, and I wanted him to work for me. So a couple months before that specific situation, when I was homeless, I offered him a job. Now, there I am, having absolutely no money and not even a place to stay. And he's offering me just a place to stay and food, which was not really nice of him. And I really appreciate it. And I'll never forget it. I'll always be grateful to him for the rest of my life for it. because I don't know what I would have done if it wasn't for his help. Really, it was like an angel sent from God that helped me. So I stayed at his place, and during that time, I wanted because I'd made a commitment to completely changing my finances around. I started watching videos on YouTube, listening to podcasts and so forth of finance and reading books of how financially successful people got out of sticky situations, turned it around, and eventually went on to have massive success. So I learned about the importance of getting out of debt, because once you have debt, you're never really truly free. And I learned that money, what money really, it represents a lot of things, but more importantly, it represents freedom. That's an important point. But while I'm busy, I wonder if I'm even live. What is going on? Sorry if I'm. I just need. I mean, this software that I'm using is showing me something completely different, like I'm not even live, but it looks like I am live. If I click on the channel. I wonder if I'm even live. Okay, so I'm watching my own live stream. So it seems like I am. So I'll continue. Even though nobody's watching at the moment, but that's going to change in the near future to millions and millions of viewers, because got some important information to share. So freedom, right? We all want it. But how do you get it? Well, if you've got a job, it's difficult to have freedom because you're at the mercy. That's really what it is. You're actually at the mercy of somebody, your boss. You know, when I was working for a boss, I had to, just like most people, had to ask, as an adult, had to ask another adult to take a day off. I mean, just think about how crazy that is. You know, you have to ask for permission to go and do something, to take some time off to go see your children. I don't have children yet, but I mean that's the situation. When you've got an emergency, you can't even just step out immediately. You need to ask somebody. You need to let others know what you're doing, where you're going. It's like you're a little kid. And that just didn't bode well with me at all. It didn't sit well with me. I didn't like that. I thought, I need to have my own freedom. I need to be the one who's making decisions. And how am I going to do that? Well, I need to do it in my own business. And that eventually came later down the line. But as I'm speaking about freedom, I realized that the more money I have, the more freedom that I've got. Because if I'm in my own business, I'm going to decide where I'm going, what I'm doing, when I'm doing it, and so forth. It's going to be on my own terms. And that's really what money represented to me, was freedom. And I wanted as much money as possible because of freedom, because I wanted freedom. And I knew that the way to start that journey was by paying off my debt. I didn't start with my smallest debt because I started with another debt. And suppose I'll talk about it sometime. I mean, it's also on my blog, finishfirstfinancially.com. You could read about it there. Also in my book, which I'll eventually introduce into the channel. I think it's still early, but the book has been out for about a year and just details my entire journey. And I've received very positive reviews from people who have read the book, which I'm really grateful for. If you really want to deep dive into my journey and how exactly, like step by step, of how I got out of debts and built savings and started investing, it's all in the book, From Homeless to Debtless with Savings. That's the name of it. And so I started paying off the one debt and I paid it off, the first debt. Now, I think I skipped a step because now I'm at my friend's place. So how did I pay it off? How did I start paying off debt? I was actually living with my friend for about 6 months because I couldn't find work. It was, uh, yeah. Now remember, now we're going into winter, and I tried to find work in finance, but I just struggled so much because now I'd been out of the loop for about a few years, because I'd gone into the hospitality industry, and even recruitment agents were saying to me, once you jump out of that circle and you go and do something else, companies are going to be very apprehensive about hiring you for some reason. I don't know. It's just one of those things in the finance industry. So all that was left for me to do was look for work in the hospitality industry. But because it was winter, there was less work for these restaurants. I didn't really want to go into nightclubs. I was just over that. But I eventually did start looking for work at nightclubs, which I didn't find. Whoever I approached, it was, oh, it's winter and there's less work. We're not hiring anybody or already hired and so forth. So I struggled to find work for 6 months. Eventually, I got a job now this is going into spring. Yeah, it was going into spring. There are 6 months had passed. So we had already passed winter and now we're going into spring, and I eventually find work in a restaurant, very low paying job. I was actually wondering how I'm going to pay off all of my debts and, how I'm going to survive and pay rent. Because now I'm really scared to go out on my own, because previously when I was on my own, I ended up homeless. So there I am. I'm on my own. I have to move out of my friend's place because it's now 6 months that I've been staying with him. I'm even embarrassed about that. I mean, he's been helping me for some time. I need to go out and live my life, as difficult as it may be. And I accept this job. I move out. I get my own place. And I kind of structured this what I call a cash flow statement as opposed to a budget, because a budget is forecasted figures where a cash flow statement is actual figures. And the way to get actual figures is to track them with receipts. For an entire month, you need to see exactly what you're spending your money on. That's the only way to know. If you're wondering, I just don't know what's happening with my money, that's because you're not tracking it. You're going out, you're having takeouts here, you're paying parking there, you've got a subscription here, and all of those expenses add up at the end of the month. They really do, without you realizing it. You pay for parking 5-6 times here, takeouts every third or fourth day, whatever it is, all of that adds up, and then a couple of $100 and even more is just flying out of your account, and you don't know what's going on with it. Once you start tracking it, you realize where it's going. So I kind of made a cash flow statement to see where my expenses are. And I wasn't able, because of my low salary, I wasn't able to pay off all of the debts that I had on a monthly basis. Wasn't able to make every single payment. So I kind of made arrangements with lawyers, with these places, to give me kind of like a grace period until I'm able to eventually pay. So I decided to tackle one debt. So I've got some income, and I've kind of made a cash flow statement. I've tried to reduce my expenses as much as possible. And I'm paying some debts off, not the biggest one, because that's just too big of amount. I can't cover it. I can't make payments on it, but I'm making some payments on some of the debts. What was strange for me was that I was actually able to save some money at the end of the month. Even though my salary at the moment, working as this restaurant manager, was less than half of what I was making in the finance world. But in the finance world, I wasn't saving anything. And that's because my expenses were, I was living above my means. I was living this lifestyle. I thought I was cool. I had the luxury BMW, living in a nice place, spending on my credit card. That's proof for you that I'm spending above my means. So I'm surprised that I'm able to save some money, and I want to save some money. I want to have a safety net because I don't want, what if my income stops now? I don't want to be in a position where I have no money, no to pay for rent, don't have any money for food. Now saving up, I'm paying some of the debts and I'm saving up, and I've made arrangements to pay all of my debts at a later stage. And I realized that, I've really reduced my expenses to the bare minimum. But the problem is that my income is low. So I need more work. That's what it is. And I start looking for more work. At the time, I was a freelance writer. So I went from having one client to three clients. And then when I had three clients, I had obviously had a bigger income, and I start paying off all of my debts. But when I paid off the first debt, I was excited. I really was excited. I thought maybe I could do this. Maybe there's hope. I just come from being homeless. I was out literally on the street, living there in my car, to kind of progressing to being at my friend's place, to finding a job, even though it was a low paying one. And I'm now able to pay. I've got savings for the first time in my life. Can you imagine? I've been now at that stage, I'd probably been working for 10 years. Yeah, somewhere about there. And, having two finance degrees, having owned a business, I'm now only starting to have savings after 10 years of working because I was just spending like crazy. So I've got some savings. I've paid off my first debt. I'm now kind of motivated. And then after paying off that first debt, I start going from the smallest debt. And then I start paying that smallest debt, and I pay that off, and I've got now more encouragement. I'm starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel. And then I tackle the second smallest debt, and so forth. So goes the process. And all of this, while this process is going on, I'm looking for more work because I've minimized my expenses. I'm living the minimalist lifestyle. And that basically means that the only expenses I've got are the ones that are crucial for survival. Those are the necessary ones, which is utilities, food, rent, and yeah, I mean, stuff like subscriptions, buying clothing, going somewhere. I just completely eliminated those. Those were not part of my cash flow statement. I couldn't have them. I couldn't afford them. I didn't want them. I wanted to grow my, pay off debts as soon as possible so I could start building savings. And as I pay off the credit, and at the time I had credit card debts, an overdraft, vehicle finance, personal loan, which was the biggest one, and what else? I owed even for the furniture, which I bought for the club. I mean, I just about every debt that you could possibly imagine, except for mortgage because I was renting. So once I started paying off these debts, I left the personal loan for last because that was my biggest one. I wanted to pay off the small, as I mentioned, my smallest debt wasn't the first one that I paid off. There was another debt that I paid off first, and there's a reason for it. But one of the reasons that these experts, finance experts, suggest that you start paying off the smallest debt first is because it gives you motivation. Kind of, when you get that first one out the way, you've paid off one debt and you tackle that second one, it just gives you kind of like a morale boost. It gives you confidence, just so you could see that you could do this. And then you tackle that second one and you pay that off. You feel, when you feel you're making progress, you get excited about it, and that's when you start to believe that you can do this. So that's one of the important things about starting off with the smallest debt, and just carrying on to paying it off, making a commitment. And one of the things that you develop when you start paying off your debts is momentum. That is extremely, extremely important. Momentum and discipline, I think, probably are what's the word I'm looking for? Can't think of it now. But I think they are one and the same. They kind of, I suppose you can say they're synonyms. If you've got discipline, you're building momentum. I think it's through discipline you probably build momentum. Forgot the word that I'm looking for, but anyway, that's extremely important when tackling debt. Momentum is one of the things that you kind of do, that you gain as you do a certain thing over and over again. So if you're committed to paying your debt every single month and you pay it off, and then you pay it off again second month and third month, you build that momentum and you get closer to the finish line. That's really what's necessary to being debt free, is building that momentum, building that discipline. And I can understand if it feels like you're never going to reach that destination because you're paying like these debts, but you feel like there's this mountain that's ahead of you, and you're looking, you're seeing this money leave your account, but it feels like you're just making barely a dent in it. And all I can say is keep going, because there is a light at the end of the tunnel. It will eventually pay off. And one of the greatest feelings was me paying off my last debt. It felt like the chains just came off. These proverbial chains that people have around their necks. It just feels, I felt lighter, because remember, throughout this time that I've got this debt, lawyers are calling me. They're threatening to sue me. They want to put me onto a blacklist. They want to enforce garnishes. And I'm stressed out. I don't have the money to pay them. I don't want them to sue me. I've got the intention to pay everything, but I just, at the time, I didn't have enough income. So I'm stressed out. I'm spending like an hour every single day on the phone with these lawyers trying to make arrangements, and it was just a terrible time in my life. So once I paid off this debt, the final one, felt like I was free. Nobody was going to call me again to demand money, and they couldn't threaten me anymore, which was just a fantastic feeling. And that was one of the best days of my life, I must say, when I became debt free. After I became debt free, obviously I started building savings, investing, and I made some mistakes during that process of paying off debt. I did invest thinking that, if this investment pays off, if it shoots off, I was investing in the financial markets, and I thought, no, this asset's going to go 10x, and that's going to help me to pay off my debt. So it kind of makes sense that I should pay off, that I should invest, instead of taking that money and paying off the debt. And it just didn't work out like that. Unfortunately, I watched that investment over several months lose like 90%, 90 of its value, which was just unbelievable to me. So I realized that's a mistake. So, I would never again invest while I've got debt. So fortunately now I don't have debt. I can just focus on investing. But that was a cautionary tale, I suppose you could say. Excuse me. So once I paid off the debt, I started building savings. And because I think there was a statistic out, I'm not sure if I'm correct, somewhere I heard it was also a couple of years ago that I heard it, that a lot of people are spending about 70 to 80% of their income, I mean, at the very least 50% of their income, on repaying debt every single month. And that's just crazy. That is insane. Just think about that statistic. Let's say you're using 50% of your income to pay off debt every single month. And now you no longer have those payments. You're saving that 50% of your income. That's going into your savings every single month. I mean, can you just imagine what a difference that makes in your financial situation? And because I was living the minimalist lifestyle, and I'd obviously decreased my expenses, eliminated unnecessary ones, and I had no debt, I, I was able to put away 80% of my income into savings. You know, that's a significant amount to put away every single month. And I was so proud of it. And I still do that for the most part. Sometimes I go a bit crazy and I spend on food because I enjoy food, but otherwise I manage to save most of my income, which I think is a great place to be in, and once now I'd built up a significant savings account. You can imagine I'd paid off $40,000 of debt at that time, which is even more now. When I was homeless, this was 6, 7 years ago, I think. So 6, 7 years 40,000 was a lot more than what it is today. And then eventually I got to a point where I saved $50,000 because I was just no longer making payments to debtors. I'd paid everybody off. I was saving 80% of my salary. Then obviously increased the savings as well. So I wanted my money to work for me, and I didn't want this savings account to just sit there. So I started investing in it. I think I'll probably talk about my investments, what I invested in later episodes, probably through the consultations. And I think, when I look at the journey, so how we got into this segment was me asking why should you watch this channel? Why should I have these consultations? What's so special about this channel and these live streams that I plan to have with people calling in and hearing my story? Well, just think about where I started off. I started from literally the streets. I was living in my car, barely had money to buy food. And I went from that to paying off $40,000 of debt and eventually saving up $50,000. So I've got this experience that I went through, this knowledge. It takes knowledge to be able to do that, to be homeless and then to pay off your debt and to save up a significant amount of money. Most American families don't even have $1,000 saved. Just think about it. They're living month to month, like paycheck to paycheck. And some people are actually even making 6 figures annually and they're living paycheck to paycheck, which is crazy. And the only reason they're doing that is because of lack of knowledge, and also because of status and comfort, which I will talk about, which I talked about extensively in my book, and we'll mention it throughout the consultations. I've actually been speaking for an hour, which is not as easy as it may appear because I've been speaking on the fly. I don't have any bullet points or anything. I guess it kind of makes it easier when you're sharing your story because it's something that's in my mind. And obviously the aim of this channel, as I mentioned at the beginning, was to get people to call in so I could, with personal finance questions, so that I could address that. And, you as the viewer can see what other people are going through. So you feel that you're not the only one. And then you also hear what I think about, I'll share, I suppose, my wisdom, my experience, and you can see if that relates to your situation and maybe want to incorporate that in your own life to see if you can have the same success that I had. It might help you. My more knowledge might help you to get out of debt and to build savings. And that's just being out of debt, even if you don't have savings, is like first amazing step. Honestly, it means a lot to be in that position. You feel a great sense of accomplishment. Most people are at the very least, they've got a mortgage. Most people also have who are in debt have credit card debts and vehicle finance and all of these things. And it's almost like we've become accustomed to living in debt. It's like this whole cycle where we feel that it's normal to have debt. For some of us, till the end of our lives, and some people pass the debts on to their family, which is crazy, but that happens. And just to get to the point where you're out of debt, it's like your lungs are no longer clogged up. You can breathe easily and you feel different. And one of the things, yeah, I'm glad that I just mentioned that now because I'm reminded of how I felt when I got out of debt, is that you view your job differently. One of the biggest reasons people go to work is because they have debt to pay. That's one of the biggest motivators, one of the biggest drivers for going to work. A lot of people might not enjoy their job, but they have to go there because they have rent or mortgage, they have all these other debts that they need to pay off. And once you're debt free, and especially when you have significant savings, you start to reevaluate your life. And one of the first things that you reevaluate is your job. You start to think, do I really need to do this job now that I don't have any creditors and I've got a nice safety net to fall back on in case, I'm not able to find work for 2 or 3 months. And that's one of the great things. I think you're more reluctant to go back to the job once you're debt free and have savings. That's definitely one of the things that happened to me. I just first of all, I got tired of working for others. I wanted to be in my own business. And because I didn't have debt and I had significant savings, it was much easier for me to make that shift from having a job to going into my own business, as opposed to somebody, who's got debt, who doesn't have savings. Now you want to start your business being in that situation and risk, because opening up a business is risky. There's no guaranteed income. So that's difficult. And I sympathize with people who are in that situation who want to make that change, but they're not able to because they've got debt and no savings. Once it was much easier for me to do it because I had no debts and I had savings. So I think that's one of the things that should serve as motivation to people who are in debt. If you want to make a drastic shift in your life, it's much easier to do it, especially changing careers or going from a job and opening up your own business. Much easier to do it when you don't have any debt and when you've got savings. That is one of the things that all comes back to what I was saying about freedom. Money represents freedom. The more money you've got, the more freedom you've got, the less risk you feel you're taking, because when you make that change from a job to a business, you've got these funds that act as a safety net. You're not really as stressed. Can you imagine you've got debt and you've left this job that was paying you every single month, so you've got some money to pay your debts and to live. Now you no longer have that money and you go into a business and there's no income from that business. But now you still need to live and you need to make all those debt payments. That's the situation that I was in, and that's how I ended up homeless. So that is a very difficult spot to be in. So the ideal situation, obviously, when opening up a business is to be debt free and have savings. But that's a story for another day. You know, I just wanted to do this live stream as kind of an introduction to what the channel is about. And hopefully we can get to a stage soon where there are enough people watching and they're calling in that want to kind of get stuff off of their chest. I'm going to share a link to probably a Zoom call or whatever it is, and then people can call in and with their financial troubles, and then I'm going to give my opinion or kind of use my experience, what I would do in that situation or what I did, so people can decide whether that's for them or not. And while I'm busy building up this channel, I am to the point where we do have enough viewers and people are calling in for the live stream. I'm going to be reading some of the blogs that I've written on finishfirstfinancially.com. That's my blog where I've shared what I believe is a lot of valuable financial information that I went through, my story and how I got out of debt and how I built savings. So I'm going to read some of the articles in the next few streams. Think the streams, preferably want to do them every single day, Monday to Friday at 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I'm probably going to I'll try really hard to stick to that schedule. We'll see how it goes. And hopefully we can build this channel up to the point where we constantly have callers so that you can see different people, different walks of life, see what they're going through, and you can relate to their stories. And I think it's going to be quite entertaining. I just hope that we get there soon as possible. But in the meantime, until we get to that, I will be reading and I'll be sharing also more of my story and reading the blogs, reading those articles that I've written because there's a lot of valuable information in them. It's been almost an hour. Now it's actually an hour that I've been talking, that I've been sharing my story and what the channel is about and where it's going. So I think that's going to be it for this live stream. I'll be back tomorrow, 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Hopefully you'll join me. Hopefully there'll be more people on the live stream. And if there's been anybody, I see there's like one view, which I'm grateful for. One person is one person. That's great. It will grow eventually over time. Thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate it. And we will chat tomorrow, 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I will see you then with more of my stories and so forth. So I'll check in with you then.